Did you know that you can make one of the best all-natural fertilizers and get rid of kitchen scraps? I'll show you how with worms. So one of the best all-natural fertilizers is worm castings, and I'm going to show you how to make your own worm farm. So you're going to need 2 plastic bins with tops. This is a 17-gallon bin. Why do you need 2? Well, when I first started, my bin got too swampy, full of water. So I like to drill holes in the top bin so that it allows it to drain into the second bin. So next I want to take this first bin out. Go ahead and remove the lid. And I'm going to start drilling holes into this one. Now, the bit that I'm using has a 1/4 inch bit on it. It doesn't have to be 1/4 inch. I just found that to be a good size to allow the water to drain, but not worms to escape. And then I'll just kind of drill 2 holes in. So I've drilled about 16 holes into the bottom of this tub. It doesn't have to be 16. It just, evenly space out your holes so that it allows for drainage across the entire bin. And then once you do that, kind of shake off all the plastic shavings that came off. And then we'll put this bin, inside of the bin with no holes. So this is the bin with holes. It'll drain any excess water off and into the bottom bin. Next, we're going to put shredded cardboard in. You're going to want about 3 inches deep. I just take old boxes that I get from shipping companies, and I've got a shredder that I love. I'll put a link below if you want to shred your own. But also, you don't have to shred it. You can soak your boxes really wet and they tear apart easily, just as long as they're kind of in smaller pieces. You could also just use shredded paper if you didn't want to use cardboard, if you have a lot of paper laying around. All right, so we're at about 3 inches now. So this is way too dry for worms right now. So what we got to do is we've got to water it. And it's a lot more water than you think. So kind of mix it up so none of it is dry. We don't want any dry cardboard because worms hate dry. I don't know, you could probably see it like standing water here. Don't worry about that. Just kind of sop it up with the cardboard because it will absorb it. Alright, so a good test to see if it's wet enough is you don't feel any dry spots, and then when you squeeze it, it feels like a wet sponge, but you maybe get 1 drop out of it, but not quite. So it feels wet, and you can almost get a drop out of it, but not quite. If you've put too much water in it and you squeeze and there's multiple drops of water, then you can just add more dry cardboard and mix it in. So next I'm going to add about a tablespoon of Azomite. Azomite is full of nutrition, but even more importantly, it's a grit. Worms need grit in their diet because they don't have teeth. They have gizzards, so they need grit to help them break down their food. If you don't have Azomite, that's okay. Really finely ground eggshells also work. Next I'm going to add about a cup of worm castings. I know, we're making worm castings and you're like, how am I gonna add a cup? Well, you can buy good quality castings. So worms don't eat food, they eat the bacteria that grows on food. These worm castings have a lot of good bacteria in them. So by putting them in now, we're giving the worms something good to eat while the food we're about to put in grows the bacteria. If you don't have castings, you can skip this step. Just wait about a week before you add worms to the bin. Now we're just going to mix this all together. So now we add the food scraps. And I know you're going to ask me for a recipe, but there is really no recipe. It's just kind of the fresh vegetables and fruits that you have laying around that are scraps is what can go in this bin. There are some do's and don'ts. The big do's and don'ts are no meat and no dairy. And it's not that those will harm the worms, it's just that those take a long time to break down and the worms won't get to them for a while. So maggots and rats will find it before the worms do. Chili peppers are another food that you want to avoid putting in your bin, and this could actually harm your worms. The oil that makes the pepper spicy is the same oil that could harm your worms. So we just kind of want to make a thin layer of the food here. I happen to have lettuce, some lettuce here, some banana peel, some apple core. There's some bell pepper tops. Really, it's just whatever fruits and vegetables you are about to throw away, you can now add to your bin. I would start out slow because when you first put worms into your bin, they're going to be a little shy and they're not going to eat right away. So slower, less food is better at first until you get a sense of how fast your worms will eat. After this, I'm just going to cover it slightly with some wet cardboard. And really, just about an inch or so, just to cover the food. This is really just to keep the pests away, to keep fruit flies from getting into your bin. Now for the part you've been waiting for, we're going to add our worms. So this 17-gallon bin will hold about 2,500 worms. So I would start by adding about 500, 600 worms to give them plenty of space to grow. I'm using red wiggler worms because they're good decomposers, but if you're a fisherman and you want to use European night crawlers or African night crawlers, then go right ahead. So check back in about a week and just kind of look through and see if they've eaten the food or not. If they haven't eaten the food, which they may not because you put them in a new environment, then leave it there. If they have eaten the food, then repeat the process of a layer of food and then a layer of cardboard. Then we'll just put the lid on it. The lid will help the worms stay in the bin, and it also will control the moisture in the bin. And really, you can put this bin anywhere that's out of the sun. Worms thrive best when it's between 55 degrees and 90 degrees. So you can put this, some people put it underneath the kitchen sink so that they have easy access for food scraps. Some people keep it in the basement. A heated garage is a good place. Really, it's up to you. Our next video will go into care for your bin, troubleshooting, feeding, and harvesting. So make sure you subscribe to catch that video.